Happy Thursday and Friday, everybody. Today we are going to finish up lesson 3.2 in our books and with a video. So if you haven't already, please grab your book, a pencil, and let's finish up 3.2, rational numbers on a number line. But before we start in our book, let's review a number line. So first of all, if we start at 0, that is called the origin, neither negative or positive. As I move right up the number line, or up if it's a vertical one, but in this case right, the numbers get bigger. And anything to the right of 0 is going to be positive. Now if I go back to the origin or 0, if I go to the left, now I am dealing with negative numbers. They are all less than 0. Also, as I go further away down the number line, the numbers get bigger, but it's still negative. So actually the amount gets smaller, but the number gets bigger. So it's totally opposite of positive numbers. So again, negative numbers to the left of 0, the 0 is called the origin, and to the right of 0 are my positive numbers. All right, so we're going to start on page 152, and we're going to plot and label the points A, B, and C on this number line below. So looking at point A, it is negative 5.5. So that tells me it's halfway between negative 5 and negative 6. But first, let's look at this number line and analyze it. So I'm going to look at 0 to 1. I notice there is 1, 2, 3 lines between it, which means there is 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So we are dealing with fourths. But I see that it's a half. A half is going to be 2/4. So negative 5.5 is equivalent to negative 5 2/4. So for point A, I'm going to go to negative 5 and go to the left 1/4, 2/4. So there is point A. Next one is B. B is at 25 hundredths. Well, if I have 25 hundredths as a decimal, that means it's 25 hundredths as a fraction. But we are not dealing with hundredths, we're dealing with fourths. Good thing we can reduce 25 hundredths down to 1/4. So it's a positive 1/4, which would be 1/4 to the right of 0, which is going to be B. And finally C, negative 3 5/10. So I'm going to do that right here, negative 3 5/10, which is equivalent to negative 3 5/10. And I know that negative 3 5/10 is the same as negative 3 1/2, which many of you know is halfway between negative 3 and negative 4. But if you want to deal with the fourths, it's negative 3 2/4, because 2/4 and 1/2 are equivalent. So negative 3, negative 3 1/4, negative 3 2/4. So we plot that and have C. So there is points A, B, and C. And if you're following along the video, great job, because we are going to submit this problem for our assignment this week. So great job following along. Negative, whoopsie. All right, to finish up today's work, we're going to finish up page 153 for review. So let's look at number 1 and then the directions. So it says, whoop, sorry, silly me, I was in front of the directions again. Better move off to the side. It says, write the number positioned at each point on the number line at the right. So let's look at this number line at the right. Let's find two integers or whole numbers and see how many spaces are between them. That's called the scale, and we want to know what fraction we're dealing with. So I have 1 space, 2 space, 3 space, 4 spaces. So that means we're dealing with fourths. So if I'm looking at A is between 0 and 1. It's between 0 and 1. So it's going to be positive 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So A is going to be at 3/4. When I look at B, B is right here, and it's between 1 and 2. and it's 1/4, 2/4. So B is going to be 2/4, which is equivalent to 1/2. Point C. If we look at C, it's way down here in the negatives. So it's between -2 and -3, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So it will be -2 and 3/4. And then we have point D. Point D is located here between -1 and -2. So here is -1, and it's one space past -1. So that gives me -1 and 1/4. Please hit pause and then continue finding E, F, G, and H and writing down where their point is. Great job. So looking at E, I see E is halfway between 2 and 3, which means it is at 2 and 2/4, which is equivalent to 2 and 1/2. F, which you found already, and notice it's between 0 and -1, so it's going to be a negative number. And it's how many spaces past 0? Hey Gary, how many spaces past 0 is it? One space, so that'd be 1/4. Great job. -1/4. G. G is down between -2 and -3. One spot past -2, which makes it -2 and 1/4. And then H. H is between 0 and 1, so that makes it positive. And it is one space, two spaces, which makes it 2/4, which is 1/2. Great job. Let's look down at 9 through 16. In 9 through 16, plot each point on the number line at the right. So number 9, we need to find 2 and 75/100ths. So if I figure out what 75/100ths is, as a fraction, that's 75/100. And if we reduce it, it is 3/4. And this is my whole number, so it's going to be 2 and 3/4. So S is going to be 2 and 3/4. So we'll put a point at 2 and 3/4 and label it S. Next we have T at 1/4. So I find T, we need to mark T at 1/4. So it's positive, and it's one space past 0. So it's going to be right here. Let's clean that up a bit. It's getting a little cluttered and confusing. So, whoopsie. There we go. So, like we said earlier, one space past 0 is going to be T at 1/4. Next one, U. So we got 9 and 10 done. U is -2 and 1/2. So it's going to be between -2 and -3. And 1/2 is 2/4 negative. So we need to go -2 and 2/4, which would be two spaces between after 2, -2. And that will be U. And then V, we have 2 and 25/100ths. So our decimal 25/100ths is 25/100ths. And then if we reduce that, it would be 1/4. So 2 and 1/4. And we're doing 2 because that's what our whole number is. So at 2, I need to go 1/4 past it, and that is going to be V. Great job. So please hit pause right now and go do W, X, Y, Z, and then unpause when you're done to see where we're at. All right, so for W, we have 1 and 3/4. So I'm going to go to 1, positive, and go 1, 2, 3 points past it, or spaces past it, and mark down a point for W. Done. X, -75/100ths. Well, we have -75/100ths is equivalent to -3/4. So that means -3 spaces past 0. So I find my 0, -1/4, -2/4, -3/4 is going to be X. Then we have -1 and 75/100ths. So if we have 75/100ths, negative, that is equivalent to -3/4. So y is going to be negative 1 3/4. So I find negative 1, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So negative 1 3/4 is going to be y. And then z, we have negative 3/1. And if I do 3/1, it means 3 divided by 1. So negative 3/1 is equivalent to negative 3, which puts me right there, and that is my z. Great job. 17 says, or reads, plot negative 8 7/10 on the number line below. So let's make sure we have tenths. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we can find the 7th one down, because negative 8.7, 7/10 means 7/10. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a half. 6, 7. So I'm going to mark that point, or plot that point, and that will be negative 8 7/10. Next, we need to draw a number line for negative 5/3. But first, let's talk about negative 5/3. I know that 3 can go into 5 one whole time, and I would have 2 left over. And if we're dealing with thirds, that means negative 1 2/3. So if I have a number line, I'm going to start at 0, negative 1, negative 2. It is going to be somewhere here. Well, we need 3 spaces, which means 2 lines. So I have negative 1, negative 1 1/3, negative 1 2/3, negative 1 3/3. Oh, that's 2. 3/3 is 1, so if I have negative 1 3/3, same thing as negative 2. But we're going to mark negative 1 2/3, which is the same as negative 5/3. Great job. If you have any questions, make sure you come and see me later. But remember to submit page 152. What number was that? Liv, what number was that? Number 21, Mr. Creamers. Thanks, Liv. You're the best. So go ahead, submit problem 21 on page 152 if you haven't already. All right, so we're done in the book. What do I do next? What you need to do is go to Schoology, check out and reread the update for math for the day, and complete all the tasks that are in there. If you have any questions, please let me know. Great job. Have a nice day, everybody.